Hey, everybody. Good evening.
Welcome to Happy Hour.
Yes.
Tibbers, say hello to the people. Hello, people. Hello, people. Hmm. Okay, now don't knock anything over. Cheers, everybody. Yay.
Cheers.
How are we?
Fantastic.
Welcome, welcome to Happy Hour. So as you know, we're kind of rotating through to give um, Max and Doc and Bob a little time off so that Bob can go out to dinner with his wife. So it's just going to be me and Lamar and Heather with you tonight.
Yep.
And we have such an exciting story to share of um, Heather's adventure with her bestie Shelby on the river. So
When
I'm
I
going
think
to
of river, the first
going to really
person.
let Heather tell this, but I'm going to preface this by saying that when we were heading out to have this adventure together, my husband said, has Heather ever done anything outside? I was like, you mean other than like walk to and from the car? Like a sport kind of a thing? And he's like, I don't think she should be in the sun. And I'm not sure she's ever gone outside. So let me tell you all what we did. We had our contest win a weekend, a true weird weekend of Florida with your bestie. And so our winner, Julie, came from Oregon. And at the last minute, her friend, her bestie, couldn't travel. So poor Julie, we never let her out of our sight. We stalked and harassed poor Julie. She was so much fun. So we one of the things we did, we went kayaking at night in this nature preserve on a bioluminescent um, body of water with all these little plankton in it that when you touch the water, they glow. And it was a new moon. So it was really, really dark. You could see stars. You could see the Milky Way. It was incredibly beautiful. But it was so dark that you really could not see your hand in front of your face. That's how, I mean, legitimately, Lamar, you were kind of making your way down to the water's edge by feel. And we were in a group of about 20 people
Yeah.
going out on this kayaking ride. And it was, me and Heather and Shelby and Kevin and Julie. And we were really well behaved and listening to the instructions. I had never been in a kayak in my life. Heather had never been outside at night before. So we were very, very novices at this. Julie's a kayaker, but she'd never gone kayaking at night. And of course, Kevin, my husband, Kit Carson, of course, he can kayak and run and hunt animals with a knife in his teeth or whatever. And he was convinced that me and or Heather would have a mishap if he wasn't there to supervise.
Well, he wasn't wrong.
He
Well,
wasn't
pretty
wrong.
good thinking on his part. I'm thinking.
So we get the talk, and it's a safety talk, but it's also a how to paddle a kayak talk.
Yeah.
But the other group would not stop talking during the demonstration. And I knew when we walked down to the water's edge that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and that I was going to have to hope that once I got on the water and got that paddle in my hands, I could channel some Nat Geo documentary or whatever. Same for Heather and Shelby. Like we could not hear the instructions. And so we go down, and it's so dark that as one person would get into the kayak and be pushed into the water, they vanished from sight.
Whoa.
So since Julie was an experienced kayaker, they let her go solo. And the only way you could see anybody, each of us had a glow stick that we were wearing on top of our life jacket.
That
That's how dark it was, Lamar.
sounds so cool, though.
Shark,
Oh my.
so cool. So Kevin and I decide we're going to go last. We're going to make sure that Julie gets in and Heather and Shelby get in. So I see Heather, she's right in front of me. I see Heather and Shelby, who is as pale and very much an indoor cat as Heather is. Okay? Like you can tell they're besties who've never been outside. So I see Heather and Shelby get in, and I see the guide push them out, but then they vanish into the darkness. They're swallowed
Yeah.
up by the night. Heather, would you like to take it from here?
Well, so Sherry explained that we couldn't really get the directions, and I still have to sometimes check my left and my right So the thing with kayaking is you paddle on your left to go right and you paddle on your right to go left. And the person in the back is taking directions from the person in the front. And so she was supposed to call out to me which side we were paddling on, except for she didn't. So she's paddling over here and I'm paddling over here and we're going like this. I realize she's paddling over here. And so I start to paddle over there and we go.
They were canoe paddling instead of, a kayak where you do this. Pocahontas and her friend were paddling like they were in a canoe
and we go sailing into the dark bushes, trees. And if you guys have been on happy hour, I'm terrified of spiders. So I start to panic when we end up in the bushes in the dark. Also, Florida, gators. My brain, I'm like screaming. And she's panicking because we both, they really say that kayaking will test your friendship or your relationship. And here's the thing. It'll show you if you're on the same page or not. And we were on the same page. That page was panic. Yeah. And they give you a little whistle to blow. And we couldn't find the whistle. Neither of us. She was like, I can't find the whistle. I'm like, I can't find the whistle either. So we're screaming, help, help, help. And the tour guide, his name is Harrison, by the way. Love that tour guide.
He was so good. He was so good.
He comes paddling up to us and he was like, I got you guys. I'm going to tow you. And he like pulls us out a little bit, puts the tow rope on us and tows us along. And he's like, you have to paddle a little bit or you'll pull me backwards.
Yeah.
So now keep in mind that they have been swallowed by the night along with every other kayak.
Well,
so it's about 15 minutes. Kevin and I get in the water and I'm in the front. Can't give direction. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I don't take direction. So basically there's not going to be any direction, but kayaking, my first time kayaking and my husband was a metaphor for our entire relationship. I'm just enthusiastically paddling like a mofo. I'm paddling like there's a fire behind me. And he's just sitting back taking in the sights because there was nothing for him to do. It worked out great. Teamwork, making the dream work. But you can't see. You can't see your
Could
people.
You see the glow sticks in front of you, the people?
In the distance, you can see the glow sticks.
So when I looked to the left, all I saw was a sea of like glowing dots. That's how far away everyone was from us. And so the tour guide's like towing us back to the front. And we're going through, we're paddling a little bit, but we're struggling. We're still struggling. And they're talking about the bioluminescence. And we get about halfway through this part called the maze. And I look over to my left and I see two glowing eyes just like this in the water. And I'm like, that's a gator.
And the guide is like, everybody, let's move to the right bank because the gator was on the left.
Well, and I saw him radio. He goes, it's over here on the left. And so he's moving. Everybody behind us is moving, but I see it. I didn't know Shelby had seen it, but when we get like far enough past it, the tour guide turns around and he goes, did you guys see the gator? And I was like, I saw it. I saw the eyes. And Shelby's like, I saw it. I was like, and you didn't say anything? And she goes, but you didn't say anything because I didn't want to freak her out. And she didn't want to freak me out.
Y'all are in pitch black dark.
Yeah.
You don't know what the hell you're doing. And there's no wonder the alligators are there. The odds are in their favor. They can get something to eat. Why would you not?
We go through this maze and there's the gator. He's kind of a punky little small gator because the water's brackish or whatever. And I think maybe he'd just eaten a raccoon or something. He didn't show much interest in us. There were herons and osprey and raccoons and the gator. And it was really spectacular. When you trailed your hand, so above you is the night sky, an explosion of stars. And when you trailed your hand through the pitch black water, it was an explosion of stars. Like it was absolutely amazing. Amazing. So we're paddling and I'm like looking around like, where's Julie? Where's Julie? I can't find Julie. Where the hell are Heather and Shelby? I can't find Heather and Shelby. We come out of the maze where the gator was and I'm paddling and Kevin's like, slow down, woman. And I'm paddling and boats are ricocheting off of each other because there's so many people. And I suddenly hear Heather's voice and she's up ahead. So I'm like paddling to catch up with Heather. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so impressed. This is the first time Heather's been outside at night.
She's killing it.
And she's kayaking like a boss, straight as an arrow, shooting through the water like a rocket. So I say we catch up and I'm paddling. We catch up and I'm like, Heather, girl, I am so impressed by your kayaking skills. Look at you. And that's when she goes, "We're being towed."
Listen, good move, Heather. Good move. Good move. I bow down to the ingenuity. Help. Get towed. Listen, if I ever go, I'm going to say help, so I can get towed.
When we were wrapping up, and off to your left, you could see the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, where that morning we had watched the Falcon 9 heavy rocket launch the NASA mission to the Psyche asteroid. So there's the launch pad illuminated in the darkness, and there are all the stars, and now the wind kicks up. But the wind is not at our backs. The wind is right in our face. And now you're paddling for real so that you have a chance of getting back to shore. Oh my God, it was so fun. It was so fun.
It was very fun.
What a great trip.
It was like a million little galaxies when you put your hand in that water. Of course, after I saw the gator, I was a little bit more leery about sticking my hand down in the water because I like my fingers. But
I told Kevin I wanted to jump in the water and swim. And I wish that I could have gone swimming in that water with goggles so that I could have opened my eyes. It would have been like swimming in the stars. It was so spectacular. And fun fact, Lamar, this one, Heather and I loved this. And of course, Heather learned even more than I did because she was right behind the guide for the entire trip and got to hear all of the stuff.
All your questions were answered.
So the little microscopic little creatures that are bioluminescent, they're like anglerfish or, any animal that has
fireflies.
Fireflies. They only are able to put that glow off once every 24 hours. So every time you trailed your hand through the water, all of that was for your eyes only. And then none of those animals would glow again until tomorrow. Isn't that super cool?
Listen, this is an amazing. See, this is why we forget about this kind of stuff, because we're stuck in a town somewhere and you never really see. I mean, when you really get out there where you can see stuff, that's awesome. I would love to do that.
It was super, super fun. I'd like to go kayaking again. I'm such a giant baby Huey. I don't know my own strength and I break things. And the other day I was tearing up cardboard boxes to recycle, and I pulled one so aggressively that it snapped back and slapped me in the face, scratched my face. Like I am literally a cartoon dog. So I want to go again and learn how to actually grip the paddle, because I was giving myself blisters. I was so in it. But Heather learned some other things being so close to the guide, like what the guides spend all their money on.
Which is Taco Bell. That's they eat a lot of Taco Bell. I've learned a lot about the dietary habits. And he was like, I was like, you guys must have some good muscles from doing this. And he goes, actually, no. And we're back here freaking out, we're gasping and everything. And he goes, you guys sure are making a lot of noise back there. Are you okay? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you're supposed to be relaxed when you go kayaking, especially at night. And I go, this is my brain all the time. He goes, both of you? And we're like, uh-huh. Goes, oh my goodness. He goes, kayaking is supposed to be relaxing. I guess not for you guys.
I think if we had put Heather and Shelby in one of those hamster balls, they could have ran across the lake and the river. But the paddling thing, it was just kind of tricky. But it was super, super, super fun.
Oh, it was a once in a lifetime experience. It was definitely a bonding experience. Shelby and I feel closer.
I was so glad that it went as well for me as it did, because I am not there are only a handful of things that involve your body that I can do with any skill or grace. And I've never even been in a kayak before. And I just thought it was going to be miserable for Kev. So since he knows how to kayak. So we glad that it wasn't worse for him.
We looked over at one point and Kevin was just sitting back there holding his paddle, and you were like kayaking the whole thing. It was great.
He kept saying to me, woman, you don't have to paddle that much, but I've only seen kayaking on nature documentaries, and they're constantly like getting at it. You
Move
know?
all the time.
Yeah. Thank you.
You were killing it, Sheri. I think kayaking might be your sport.
I'm super excited. I told him like the next time Costco has a kayak on sale, I think you should really consider it. And then the next day, so we didn't get back from our nighttime kayaking adventure till close to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day we went to the Kennedy Space Center. And y'all know like what a goober I am for the space program and astronauts and the shuttle and the Apollo and the Gemini and the Mercury missions and aliens and the solar system and the universe. Like that's my jam. I was so emotionally overwhelmed by my day at the Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, I was in tears in the Astronaut Hall of Fame. You walk into the Astronaut Hall of Fame, and the first thing you experience is like an interactive sort of introductory movie about what it means to be a hero. And then you move into the next space, and it's all of the crews that have ever gone up, every crewed flight. And one of the first things I turned my head, and there was Challenger and there was Columbia. And those are the two shuttle crews that the 28th mission of Columbia was lost on reentry. And of course, we all know what happened with Challenger. Started crying then, pulled myself together, went and, did a bunch of other stuff. And then we went and went to the, we saw the launch pad and the assembly building. And then we went to the part of the Space Center that's about the shuttle program. And to be like right next to the Space Shuttle Atlantis, I mean, I just lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I was crying like a baby. It was so emotional. So emotional.
It was so special for me. And I looked over and Sheri's just like weeping, but it was so special for me too. But like, there was so much to do that you could spend days there and not see it all.
The only reason I hadn't, that's been on my bucket list forever, Lamar, but it's one of those things where you're in Florida for work and there isn't time. Or, we would take the kids camping for spring break in the Keys and there wasn't time to make it to.
That's a trip in itself.
Yeah,
You have
it's
to
a trip.
make that a trip itself.
So, I mean, it was so, I went to one of those machines where you can have like a little custom. I made myself a NASA name tag for my backpack, like goobered out at the highest levels every inch of the day. Like I touched everything. I rode on slides. I spun wheels. I did interactive exhibits. There's this one place you can go to and practice landing the space shuttle. Here's the good news. NASA was not wrong to reject me as an astronaut. And that bitch to save myself.
They saved money on that, did they not?
Oh God, Lamar, it was just.
Isn't that whole thing amazing? I mean, you think about. I mean, the idea that you can do that, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that you can do that.
So anybody who listens to my True Weird Stuff podcast knows how I feel about the space program and the endless freaking penny pinching and misery of we got problems on Earth. Yes, but when we push the frontiers of human knowledge, that gives us new resources and strategies to solve the problems on Earth. But anyway, so one of the things they have is the original mission control room. All the computers, the chairs, the pencils, everything, the original mission control room for the Apollo launch. And you want to talk about something that's low tech?
Really?
Like, Heather, you would have a hard time believing we could route school buses from that facility.
No, I was looking at those computers, and first of all, they're so big and the buttons are like,
Yeah.
But the fact that they launched spacecraft with them and got all sorts of readings and communicated with the spacecraft with them. I mean, half the time I can't even get this to work. So
I know.
It's I don't know. It almost seems like it's just made up. I
Yeah.
understand when this very first started, people didn't believe it. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. You're taking a very heavy piece of metal and you're creating an explosion that throws it up till it breaks away from gravity. And then you're still talking to it and you're adjusting things as you go. I don't know. I mean, I just can't imagine people can come up with all
Well,
that.
here's the thing, like a lot of people don't realize, and I know there are loads of people that think, the moon landing was faked and the earth is flat and whatever. Um, and I love a good conspiracy theory twice as much as the next person. But there are times when you just have to go, yeah, I'm pretty sure the earth isn't a pancake, Jim. But anyway, something that a lot of people don't know is that the very first rockets used in the space program were actually intercontinental ballistic missiles that have
Yeah.
been refitted. And so when we talk about courage and heroism and just the kind of like balls out bravery and insanity of these early astronauts who
Yeah,
were
they
like,
left
yeah,
their
all
loved
right,
ones
you can
behind.
strap me to an ICBM and I'll go.
Yes. And I'm trusting somebody. But here's the other thing that is so amazing about that. If you watch that movie, about how the space program got started, those women doing the calculations,
Mhm.
they're doing this. And
Hidden
the
figures.
main
Yeah.
lady, before, and I can't remember which one, before he would go on the mission, the computers did all the work. And he goes, until she checks the numbers, the lady, that African American lady, until she checks the numbers, I'm not getting in, because he trusted her more than the
Yep.
computer. How you figure all that, I don't even understand. I really, really don't. It's
To be
amazing.
smart enough to
God.
have been able to even consider that as a life. Like our friend Carl, who works for Visit Florida, was with us, and like he was with us last year when Lysaida and David got married at Daytona Beach, and he came
Yeah.
to the Kennedy Space Center with us. Poor Carl. So Carl's walking with me from exhibit to exhibit, and I'm like, "Yeah, you see that? That's Story Musgrave. He's the one that reported seeing an enormous eel swimming in space through the window of the spacecraft." And Carl's like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, that's Mitchell. He also reported seeing something inexplicable that was clearly intelligently operated. By the time we got to the space shuttle building, we had about 5 minutes to kill before because you go through, it's an experience, it's an immersive experience that takes you to the Atlantis, the real Atlantis, complete with like it's banged up heat tiles and oh my God, it's magnificent. Anyway, so we've got about 5 minutes to kill. So I'm like, hey, Carl, like, what do you think about, the Artemis mission, which is going to bring humans? It's a joint American-Canadian thing that's going to return humans to the moon. And he goes, I think it's pretty amazing. I said, don't you think it's kind of wild how 1972, like everybody was like the moon. And then suddenly we were all like the moon. The moon is boring and dry and dead and no one cares. And who cares about the moon? And we're never going back. And then exactly 50 years later, India, China, Russia, the US, Canada, we're all going to the moon. Did you ever wonder why that is? And he goes, not really. And I said, well, it's because a lot of people believe that the moon is actually a hollow alien base and that we were stomping around on it back in the 60s and 70s. And the aliens that own it were like, get your monkey booties off of here. And they gave Earth a 50-year lunar detention, which ended in January 2023. I will now impersonate Carl's face. And he goes, I didn't, was that on the news? I didn't know about that. I'm like, I don't know if it's true or not, Carl. It's just kind of a fun story. A lot of people believe. And at that moment, the lights went down and the show began. It was so fun.
The way they unveiled the Atlantis, the theater of it. I mean, you go into this room and the screen is like domed. And it's like they're projecting this movie on this screen. You don't know it's a screen. It just looks like a wall. It looks like they've corralled you into a doorless room to project a movie on.
Yeah.
And so and it's a phenomenal movie. And then they get to the end and boom, 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 and all the lights. And then it becomes translucent and you see the Atlantis there. And you're not sure if you're seeing a projection or a real thing. And then the screen raises up and there it is.
Oh my God.
And if you were tall enough, you could reach out and touch it.
You could touch it.
You shouldn't, but you could.
And it's canted like at an angle so that you can see everything. And the shuttle bay where the arms where they would like do spacewalks and work on the space station, that is open and the arms are extended. And there's a couple of things about seeing the shuttle in person that really blow your mind. One of them is it looks like a toy, only giant. Mm-hmm. It's battered and dirty because it's, re-entry through the atmosphere.
Oh God, yeah.
You're on fire. You're literally on fire as you come through the atmosphere. And so the tiles are dirty and there's like soot and all of that. But the space shuttle, you've seen it on TV, like piggybacking on a Boeing or whatever to come home, because the shuttle's a glider. It goes up into space on a rocket.
And then the rest of the time
it glides back down. It can't take off and fly like on Earth, right? So what they did was they would piggyback it on these jumbo jets, these giant planes. When you've seen that on TV, maybe you don't realize how big the shuttle is, which means how even bigger the plane that carried it home is. Mm-hmm. So I did a True Weird episode about the Space Shuttle Columbia on its 24th mission, which is a better story than any damn movie that Hollywood has ever made. And it's 100% true. Of course, 4 missions later, that was when we had the Columbia tragedy. So I have I'm extra obsessed with the Space Shuttle program.
Yeah.
And to see it in person and to realize the human ingenuity and the courage and yeah.
It was so cool. It was so cool.
As an astronaut, all the training, all the stuff, you go in and strap in, you have to know 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, once there's a chance, there's a decent chance you're not coming back, but you're still willing to take the trip. You're still willing to take the trip.
And when you see the space capsules from the early days of the space program, you would not want to be trapped in that for 3 straight days.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With no room to move. I mean, the claustrophobia, you have to be, I can't even imagine what the battery of psychological tests are. Even if I could do the math, do you really think anybody would let me near a spaceship?
No.
Unless I'm being abducted. Do you really see it? No.
I mean, that's where, to me, I can't imagine a submarine. I can't imagine, and I've got a friend of ours is in our small group, and he was a submarine person, and I talked to him about it, and I'm like, he goes, yeah, I mean, but you have to go through a battery of tests. So if to do a submarine's one thing, to do this is a whole nother deal.
Oh God. I mean, the idea of going to the International Space Station and whizzing around the planet, because when you're in orbit, you're going 17,500 miles an hour, but you don't feel it.
I can't contemplate that speed. I can't.
Seeing the Earth, from the shuttle or the space station or the moon or whatever, it's just so much. It's so overwhelming.
What an exclusive club.
Lamar, can you get a little closer to your mic? People are saying they are having a hard time hearing you.
What an exclusive club that is. I mean, to be a member of the club that has done that, maybe that's why the risk is worth it. I mean, to see something that only a handful of people will be able to actually witness in person. That's a big deal.
Lamar, you will be fascinated by this, although you're not as weird as I am. I do hope to change that. I do hope to make somewhat of a dent in your bacon exterior and turn you into a weirdo. But Deanna Faulkner said you should do a show about the twins. One spent time at the space station, and when he came back, his DNA was no longer identical to his identical twin brothers. Those are the Kelly brothers. And one of them was up in, I forget how many days, but he was up in orbit for a couple of months, identical twins. When he came back, his DNA was altered. And of course it's altered because there's so much come on, it's going to be. But that is trippy to think about. When he took off, he had the same DNA as his identical twin brother. And when he landed, he didn't. Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Heather, are we giving anything away tonight? I forgot to ask at the top.
I don't think. You know what? We'll give something away. We always give something away.
All right. Yeah. Every comment counts as an entry. Tiberius is shaking my camera. Sir, what is your drama tonight? Stop. Every comment counts as an entry, and we'll make Tony give something away. Surprise. Who knows what? So that was our big, exciting Florida.
What a great trip. What a great trip.
It was so much fun.
We had so much fun. I want to shout out Regina and Melissa. They live in Florida, and they were like, oh, you guys are at Cocoa Beach. Here we come. So we ended up having drinks and dinner with them in the Tiki Bar Saturday night after our big day at the Space Center. It was just super duper fun. Super, super fun. Scott Kelly, Scott and Mark Kelly. 300. Thank you, Mary Lynn. 340 days on the space station for Scott Kelly. And Mark Kelly, pop quiz, who is Mark Kelly married to? Gabby Giffords.
Oh my God. Do you know all of it? I mean, you are the most space person.
I'm such a nerd. Heather will tell you we were on a tour of the Saturn V rocket, which I said to Kevin, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need to know I'm going to be on this tour. I need to know every single thing there is to know about the Saturn V rocket. And the tour guide is asking questions and nobody's answering. And I'm like, oh my God, Michael Collins is the astronaut.
It was so funny. I was like, Sheri needs a coin because he was giving coins out to the little kids that answered the questions correctly.
And they would give the wrong answer. He'd be like, who was the astronaut who stayed in the shuttle while Neil Armstrong walked on the moon? Everyone's like, Buzz Lightyear, you little punk. It was Michael Collins. Where's my commemorative NASA coin? Yeah, super fun. And then I dragged Kevin into the gift shop. And I was like, Mama's going to need a souvenir. So I got a coffee mug for the Apollo program and a coffee mug for the Artemis program, because we collect coffee mugs and Christmas ornaments. It was fabulous.
I got some magnets I'm pretty excited to put on my refrigerator.
I love magnets. I love magnets. Anytime we go somewhere, I like to get a magnet. I love a magnet.
Calvin Frank says, is Tony ever on Happy Hour? Yeah, he comes on Happy Hour sometimes.
4 or 5 weeks ago he was on. Yeah.
We should work him a little harder, Heather.
Yeah. I asked him today if he wanted me to book him in at all.
Oh, you can't ask him if he wants something. No. You have to tell him that he's having something. I really need to write up a handbook.
Barry Bray says hi from coastal South Georgia.
Hey, Barry Bray. I'm trying. It's going by so fast, y'all. I'm going to go backward a little bit so I can shout some people out. Hang on here. Hang on.
While you're looking, let me show everybody what I got today for Halloween. I got the Scooby-Doo donuts from Krispy Kreme.
That's unbelievable. I didn't know they had that.
Hold up like your favorites to the camera so that we can admire them.
So,
see, if that's those variety things, I'm not. Oh my gosh.
That's really.
And that's a little piece of chocolate.
Oh, that is awesome.
That's really impressive.
And this one's probably my favorite because I love the Mystery Machine.
That's so good.
They are delicious. Did I need a dozen of them? No, but I have them now. So
that's right.
Now I'm really sad that you're not next to me in this room because
you would like a
Scooby-Doo donut. Let me say hi to Steve Held, who said, it amazes me that the room full of computers that sent men and a spaceship to and from the moon is less powerful than the phone in my pocket. It's so true.
I mean,
it's so true. they make a big, for all of you moon deniers out there, like, whatever, I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to ever agree with you that the earth is flat. You don't agree with me that the earth is round. Let's all live and let live. But they make a big point on the tours at Kennedy Space Center of answering the question of how the heck did we get to the moon with 60s technology? So they do try to answer that. I also want to say hi to Dennis Karen, who's coming up on the 1-year anniversary of losing his mom, which is tough stuff. And he's like, it's the 28th. So we're coming up on that really soon. And Dennis says, listening to you guys makes me feel better. And thank you. That makes us feel like we're not throwing our lives away, right? Because what else really matters but human beings kind of connecting with other human beings. Let's see. Jessica Wallace says that it keeps freezing and losing sound for her. Is that on her end, Heather?
I think so, because I'm showing that we have full connection bar.
It's usually our fault. I mean, it's almost always our fault, but this one time.
It could still be our fault, but I'm keeping an eye on it.
Oh, Tammy Johnson said the Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama is a great destination. Ooh. That's also on my list.
I'm going to Alabama this weekend. I may swing by there.
Have you ever been to Huntsville? It's like Rocket City. It's like total space town.
That would be a great place.
You need to go do that, Lamar. And then you could review it like you reviewed the Noah's Ark in Kentucky.
Yes.
Which is also on my list of places that I must visit.
Unbelievable. Awesome.
Oh. Hi, everyone from Wake Forest. Hey, Renee Goodspeed. How are you? Kim English said, I was visiting the military base in Hawaii as a child when the moon landing happened and the capsule was in the water.
Oh, that's cool.
Hey, you want to hear something kind of spooky?
Well, always.
Who would know more about it than you?
Oh. Now, when you watch like SpaceX rockets launch, like we did last weekend, those rockets fall, they come back to Earth and they don't fall in the ocean and sink. Like they're programmed to come back and land, which is amazing, right? But the Saturn V rocket that landed Neil Armstrong on the moon, once those rocket boosters were jettisoned, they sank. They couldn't be retrieved. They're at the bottom of the ocean, where future civilizations can stumble upon them and wonder, what the heck is this?
Oh, God. And they'll consider that like some sort of ancient, whatever. So.
Whatever the people of the future, whatever their version of the crazy haired dude on Ancient Aliens is, they're going to be mesmerized by the rockets that are at the bottom of the ocean.
See, that's a whole nother thing, though. They figure that out so that when they fall, they don't fall in the middle of Times Square. They fall in the ocean. Now, I know the ocean's big, but I don't care. You still got to have that figured out. You have to have that figured out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just staggering to think about the speed that they come back through the atmosphere and they're on fire and then they plunge into the ocean and then they sink to the bottom and then they get encrusted with barnacles or maybe turned into reefs or whatever. And then the people of the future will pull them up and discover them and speculate, probably get a lot of it wrong about what we did. I just love thinking about that. Now I have an unusual question here. And it is from,
I know the one you're going to say.
Am I wearing someone is getting a Catholic schoolgirl vibe off my outfit? Am I wearing a plaid skirt and knee socks? Oh my wishes. No,
Kevin, the sheriff said he's not against it.
I went to a really awesome, amazing graduation ceremony this afternoon before happy hour. A group of people that were graduating from a substance recovery program. And it was so emotional and so cool. And so I'm dressed in kind of, I guess, my preppy Catholic school girl uniform. Let's see. Denise Moore says, Earth flat? No. 1969 moon landing? I'm skeptical. How did a president call a landline at the moon? We didn't have cell phones yet. I traveled 20 minutes out of my town and no service. How did they have service? Well, I mean, we could get super technical, but they didn't always. They weren't consistently able to be in touch with Mission Control in Houston,
They had to be in
depending on
certain
where they
places.
were.
Yeah,
They needed line of sight.
They only had a certain window of opportunity to speak. Yeah.
Could you imagine how terrifying it must have been to have no connection for those blips of time in which you didn't? You're doing one of the most dangerous and unknown and impossible things, and you can't call a soul.
Listen. If you're signing up for that deal, there's very few things that are scary. You're prepared. You're ready to go. I mean, you're confident. Swagger is not even in this. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
I always feel like Michael Collins doesn't get his due because so the Apollo mission goes up and 2 astronauts are going to take the lunar lander down to the surface of the moon and walk on the moon. But the only way those 2 astronauts are going to be able to get home is if a 3rd astronaut remains in orbit and can fetch them, right?
Yes. He's important. He's very important.
So I want you to imagine you are the astronaut, Michael Collins, and you are alone and you're orbiting and you're going in and out of radio contact because as Collins, as the ship would, as the module would go on the far side of the moon, what we mistakenly call the dark side of the moon, they would lose radio contact with mission control. The aloneness of Michael Collins in that spacecraft and the pressure that was on him, because if he didn't execute flawlessly, we were going to lose 2 astronauts in full view of the world, and they were going to die a horrible, freaking terrifying death. So here's the dealio. So the lunar module can land on the moon, and it has just enough. And it looks like, by the way, it looks like a thing of Jiffy Pop popcorn. Like you want to talk about something sketchy that does not look like you could camp in your backyard in it. That's the Apollo lunar module.
Yes.
So it has just enough to get it off the moon and to the rendezvous point with Michael Collins. But I want you to imagine the speeds that these vessels are traveling at. And the technology wasn't, we didn't have the computers we have now where we could like super hyper in on the vectors. So much of that was
on a paper. They're doing it on
manual.
paper. Yes.
If Collins had not grabbed that lunar lander and been able to pull those 2 astronauts back into the capsule, we'd be telling a very different story. And I just feel like, why do more people not know his story? Right?
Yeah.
Like that, doesn't that feel like that would be Bob's astronaut job? Bob would be like, I'm over here alone in outer space, single-handedly responsible for rescuing these 2 astronauts that have just walked on the freaking moon, and nobody knows my name. Yeah. It just feels like a Bob sort of an astronaut job, and I'm bitter about it. I am for Michael Collins.
Mary Kay Tucker says, I remember holding my breath while Michael Collins was out of communication. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine that.
My husband's older than I am, and he has a very, very early memory of being hauled out of like a kindergarten class to watch it on a black and white TV in school.
But see, here's the deal. At one point, this was such a big deal. Everybody was involved. But we've gotten so far away from that. And we got all of the crazy stuff going on. These people now that are doing this stuff, I don't feel like they get the credit they deserve.
I don't either. I don't understand. Like when we have I never missed a space shuttle launch that I knew about. A lot of them were classified. The shuttle went up more times than we know. But that we're so like, whatever. Like, I'm so sorry that I don't give as much of a damn about who got Botox on Vanderpump Rules as I do about human beings going to the moon. Like, excuse you. I do want to read, because Lamar, I think you have some experience with this. Teresa says, hi, everyone from Waynesfield, Ohio. Doing a little multitasking tonight. My husband needed some ear candling. That was a success. I can enjoy my beverage. He didn't even thank me for waiting. Didn't you do that once?
Oh, yes. I ear candled quite a bit. I mean, oh, no. Because my massage therapist, she had another person that would do reflexology on your feet, which is awesome. But while they were doing the reflexology on your feet, somebody else would be doing the ear candling. And the ear candling is, listen, oh my God.
What
I
does ear
love,
candling feel like? Does it feel like something?
well, the cones go in your ears, and then they light the fire or whatever. And so you're hearing the fire burn as it softens up the wax, and then it draws the wax out of your ear. Oh God, it's awesome. And I mean, when you combine that with somebody doing your feet in those very spots that need to be done, listen, it's a great deal. It is a great hot stones. I've done it all. If it can be done in a massage, I've done. Well, no, I haven't done it all. Okay, no. These are straight up. This is not truck stop massages. This is straight up, and I've done every possible thing you can do. I've done the Taiwan thing where they put you in the floor and stretch you, they grab your legs and do. Listen, I've done it all, and the ear candling, it works because it pulls all of that wax out. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Like, could Heather and I do it, or would our hair catch on fire?
Oh, you can. Yeah, you'd pull your hair back. I mean, it's got to be out of the way. You can buy the things, but I mean, oh my God, it was great. It was great. It was awesome.
I don't know.
You've never done it either, Heather? I don't know anything.
I don't know if I could put flame that close to my head and be okay. I mean, you heard my kayaking story, so all I have is panic.
You would not want to do this yourself. You would want to get a professional to do it. That's the whole point. You go to a professional.
Matt Game wants to know if you've ever done cupping, Lamar.
Yes, absolutely.
So describe that.
Once again, one of the people in my small group, they are physical therapists, and he does the cupping and he does the needling where they put the needles in. I've done all of that. Oh yeah, the cupping works.
I've done
It
acupuncture.
draws the blood up into that area. It pulls the blood up into the area to, help the area.
So, like, if you have like muscle pain, is that what you do cupping for?
Yeah.
Hang on, Karen may have made the face screen. Let me see. You want to come show everybody?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hang on. Karen, we have a big on Saturday. We're having a big family get together, a memorial service for Uncle Haskell.
This is not for that.
Yeah.
This is not for that.
This is for Renfest.
Ooh,
Nice.
nice.
Thank you. I'm gonna do lashes and lips and stuff, but I just needed to make sure I remembered how to blend and that I wanted to put green on my face. Anyway, have a nice night.
Fantastic look.
So the cupping thing, so you do it because you have like muscle pain? Is that what it's for?
Yeah, if you've got some soreness and some different stuff and you need to draw blood to that area, and it leaves little circles for a little while. I mean, you can tell it that you've been cupped. Yeah.
You really are a Renaissance man. You are.
Yeah.
I've seen
And the
pictures.
needling deal, acupuncture and the needles, there are two types of people in this world. There's people that it works on, and there's people that it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So,
You know what Kev just had done? So back in June, he was out on the Greenway and the skies just opened up and it started a downpour. So he broke into a run and just got some sort of weird ankle injury that did not get better. Ice, rest, compression, it did not get better. Finally, I was like, you really should get you one of them book learning doctors in the town because I think this might require more than Google. So he went and the doctor was like, whoa, buddy, you got an injury there. You need physical therapy. So they sent him to a physical therapist who did this thing called dry needling, which is not acupuncture.
Yeah.
And Kev's always really skeptical. Like, me, I'm all like, wait, if I go to bed tonight with a carrot in my shoe, I'll have dreams of wealth. You betcha. Like whatever you got, I'm here for. He's very skeptical. But this dry needling, dude, life-changing.
Yep.
Life-changing therapy.
See, and he's one of the people that it works on.
Yeah.
Mike says sometimes, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But and he's done it to me, and he's done it to Carla too. I mean, and you just get him in there and going, and it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's really cool. Listen, you talk about the carrot deal. I told you. Listen, here's the deal. When somebody comes to me with something that they've been doing in China for 3,000 years, there's something to it. Okay, there's something.
It's worth looking at.
Because when I was a kid, if I had it, I've told this before, if I had an ingrown toenail when I was a kid, my mom would take a Irish potato and scrape it up, and then she would pack it on my toe and she would wrap it up in a bandage. So my toe would be in a bandage like this, you know what I'm saying? And I would go to bed. The next morning when I got up, the potato would be completely black, okay? But all the soreness would be out of my toe. And then she would take the scissors and the clippers and whatever, and she would cut out the ingrown toenail. And it didn't hurt because all the soreness was pulled out by the potato.
This is like for Bob, if he were here tonight, that's a Saw movie plot.
Right.
For starters. Now, the only difference between your mama and my grandmama, Lamar, is if the potato was being used as a remedy, and sometimes like the potato, if you got a cold sore, she'd smash a potato on it, but then the potato would have to be buried outside under the light of the moon in order for the healing to work. So I'm amazed that your people, ever so much more technologically advanced than my own, did not have to bury the potato.
My mom talked about that part. When she was a kid, that there was a lot of burying of stuff and like washcloths, and she had an uncle that could talk off warts. He could talk off warts.
He could
Do
wait,
what?
wait, I'm sorry. He could talk. Talk.
Yep, he would talk off the warts. He would, like, if you had a
You
wart.
talk the wart. Like, do you insult it? Are you aggressive? Like, what do you, how does this work?
I'm not sure what the exact wording was, but he would rub on it and he would talk to it, and he would rub on it with a dishcloth, and then he would bury the dishcloth. But my mom swore, warts gone. She said, but not everybody could do it, but he could do it.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you're
We've just went from the space. We went from people on the moon to talking warts off.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did. Well, you know what? Now we're finally in an area we know something about. Okay,
Yes.
we know jack about rocket science. We know this.
I was just thinking that talking off warts sounds like a great podcast name.
It really does. Yeah. Home
Well,
cures.
whether it was good or not, somebody'd click on it.
We had a caller on the show a long time ago, like 3 corporate owners ago. That's how I measure time. Like I said, a Jurassic, Triassic, Mesozoic. I measure it by which douchey corporate ownership I was enslaved by. But we had a caller who, when she was growing up, her grandmother went to a church where the preacher could holler the devil out of you.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, let's say you were up to some, like maybe you were, some people just are bad. They're just bad. Yeah. The preacher could holler that devil right on out of you. Like it wasn't an exorcism the way you think of like an exorcism from the movies. Yeah. He just stood there and hollered the devil right out of you. And I wonder if that's a similar gift that your uncle had with talking the warts off.
My mom had some stories. I mean, she really did. But now I listen, I cannot tell you how many times she packed my toe with an Irish potato, and the next morning it's black as soot. I got no soreness, and then she cuts out the toenail.
I ain't judging your mama. Because clearly all she needed was a russet potato and a dream. But those folks needed to get you some shoes that fit too. Because I think that was big part.
That's why we bought them big and packed them with toilet paper, and you grew into them.
Because Lamar, I came up real hard too, but we didn't need to go through quite so many potatoes because I had other afflictions, I guess.
And if I had a bad cold, she would get a cloth baby diaper, and she would put it close to the furnace in the trailer, because we had our trailer had a furnace that would heat, And so she would lay it on there, and then she would get this stuff is in a small bottle. And I've tried to find it. It's not available anymore. It was called, and the label, I remember the label, it was called Save the Baby. And on the label, it had a baby in swaddling clothes. Save the Baby. And she would take the Save the Baby, and she would take a small boiler and put it on the fire, on the stove, and heat the water. And she would put it in there, and it was a very cloudy mixture. But once you got it warm, it would what do you call it when it mixes? You know what I'm talking about?
Emulsifies.
Yeah, it emulsifies. So she would get it and then she would put that on the baby diaper, on the warm baby diaper, and she would wrap it around my neck, and then rub my nose with Vicks salve and put me to bed. Next morning, I'm breathing like nobody's business. I mean, it worked like a charm. You can't find it anywhere. I can't even find it on the internet, even that it ever existed. But we had little bottles of it. She worked at the that's where she got it from. Save the Baby.
So when I was little, before we moved out west, my great grandmother lived with my grandparents. That's my great grandma Whitehair. She who kept the root beer barrels and butterscotch candies in her bra and would slap us around and then give us a candy. She lived with my grandma Blackhair, and she had very little English because she came to America from Italy like when she was in her late 20s. So she had a very thick accent, and she didn't have many English words. And so I remember I loved her so much when I was little, but I didn't understand a lot of what she was saying to me because it was in Italian. Well, I have an older brother, and my older brother, I saw how his afflictions were dealt with as a child. And I think, the expression mind over matter. I think that as a little child, I willed myself to not have some of these afflictions because I saw what the cure was. Like my brother got like what's that called? A sty, where his eye got all puffed out.
Oh, and let me tell you something. Don't look at somebody that's got a sty, because if you look dead at them and they got the sty,
it jumps to you.
Right.
So my great grandmother said she knew how to treat that sty, and it did go away, but the treatment was so heinous, even to my little 5 or 6 year old self, that at that point I willed my body to never have a sty. And so far, Lamar, so good, because here was the cure. She dragged my brother out of bed and made him pee into a Folgers can that she then dipped a handkerchief in and pressed it onto his eye as a compress. She said, there's nothing that'll cure a sty quicker than the first urine of the morning. I'm in my room going, please, Jesus, never let me have a sty. Please let me never have a sty.
Let me go ahead and tell you, that first urine of the morning, if you had an earache in my house, my mom would get a Q-tip, and she would say, when you get up, first thing you do, you pee on this Q-tip, and then she would rub it in my ear. No earache. It would go away.
No.
Do it during the middle of the day. You had to get it in the morning. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had plenty of Q-tip with pee on them, but it's got to be your pee. Somebody else's pee.
It can't be somebody else's, Heather, and it has to be the first in the morning. Okay. Apparently, it's concentrated with healing properties.
There's a reason for that. Think about this. If you've got a blood stain on your clothes, before you put it in the washing machine, if it's your blood, you spit on it, rub it in, because the enzymes of your saliva will break down the proteins in your blood, and it'll be gone when it comes out of the thing. Yeah.
So Lamar Richardson, and this is an example of maybe the only time a woman listened to you. You told me that trick about getting your blood out of. It was a long time ago, and I don't know how it came up on the show, but I filed it away. And then probably 2 years later had a nosebleed, and I was like, oh no, because it can ruin your shirt.
Yeah.
I remembered what Lamar had said, and it worked.
I had a doctor. I had been in a car wreck, and I got blood on a shirt that I really loved, and I was complaining about that while he was working on stitching me up. And he said, look, he said, spit on it. He said, trust me on this, spit on it. And he explained it. He said, the enzymes in your saliva will break down the proteins in your own blood. I spit on that thing. come out of the washing machine, good to go.
We are wonderfully and fearfully made, are we not? Now, I am loving this Kim English comment, all in caps. I have never heard these crazy things.
Well, hey, thank goodness you tuned in. Now you know how to treat this stuff.
Well, girl, what kind of country club upbringing did you have that people weren't putting potatoes on your foot?
You be running to the doctor every time something happens. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous.
I've heard about the raw onion thing, putting a raw onion in your sock if you've got a cold at night, but some of this stuff new to me.
My mother had 2 old maid aunts that they treated everybody that got sick. And before they would go in, if you were sick, they would take 2 big onions, slice them, and put them in the pockets of their coat dress or whatever they were wearing. And they could treat everybody. They never got sick from that. And then they would throw the onions away.
My mom and dad, their favorite folk remedy, anything that they couldn't cure with a paste of cigarette ashes.
Oh God! Oh!
They would treat with mercurochrome or gentian violet. You remember what gentian violet was?
Yes.
So my cousin was one of those kids that put everything in her mouth, and she got trench mouth. Like, I'm sorry, is this World War I? But she did. She got trench mouth. They painted her whole mouth with gentian violet, and for all I know, they put some cigarette ashes in there too because they just believed.
See, the 2 main things when I was a kid was mercurochrome and methylate. I begged for mercurochrome because it didn't burn. That methylate, oh, buddy, when you scratched up your knee, when she put that methylate on, it was screaming time. It was hot. It was tough.
Lamar, which one came in the little capsule?
They both came in the capsule, and it had a hard glass. It had a hard glass on the stopper, and you'd rub it on. Oh, my mom would say, "This is cause for the methylate." And I'd start crying because, oh my gosh, it was horrible.
I don't know why this just made me remember this, but and again, this will be before we moved out west because I can remember the kitchen table at our old house. My mom was taking probably my little brother's temperature with an old school glass thermometer. And she put it on the table, and one of us picked it up and broke it. And the mercury landed on the table, and she just let us play with it. Like, oh, it's
yes, because it was so much fun to play with, but it can kill you.
Looking back, I'm so thankful I wasn't born in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, because what would they have done with that good time? If they were just like, yeah, play with the mercury, whatever.
Listen, this is my last thing to say because I know we're fixing to roll out of here. We had a fish pond in our house and on our property. So me and my mom would go fish and we would catch a fish. And so nobody ever heard of filleting a fish. No, you did not fillet the fish. You would scale it. You could strip the skin off of it, whatever, but you would cook the fish,
with the bones.
And so when we would all sit down to eat fish, there was a stack of loaf bread about this high, and it would sit there. And what happened was when you was eating, if you got a bone in your throat, and it got stuck, you just grabbed a piece of bread and start eating bread till it grabbed the bone and took it all the way down. I mean, that is exactly what we did.
Hey, Lamar, exactly. I'm super glad our kids are a little older because the state might take them if anybody's watching this tonight.
There was no DSS at that point. There was nobody to come help us.
Somebody, the comment went by when they would get an earache, their mom would put sweet oil in their ear and then blow cigarette smoke into it because there's nothing that a good Pall Mall or Marlboro could cure.
Well, it's still, your own urine is still one of the best things ever.
Oh, yeah.
There's medicinal purposes in your urine. I'm just telling you,
But
I'd rather have the earache.
Make sure that it's the first urine of the
morning.
First
urine of the day.
Getting any old urine. You need your own.
That's the healing power in the first urine.
Liquid gold, everybody. Okay.
Hey, listen. This weekend, we are headed down to Alabama. We're going to Tuscaloosa to see the Alabama play, and they're playing Tennessee. And I got to feel like when I get down to Alabama, all of these remedies, they work. Everyone works. They all work in Alabama. And before I go, I want to wish a happy anniversary to my daughter, Alex, and her husband, Eric. Today is their anniversary.
And that precious little munchkin baby Dean.
Oh, yeah, baby Dean. We kept him last weekend. The most perfect baby ever.
He's
Never
so
says
good.
a
Oh my
word.
God, he's delicious.
Word.
Well, for those of you that enjoyed the first part of Happy Hour, where we talked about the extraordinary advances of the space program before we started hollering at warts and putting potatoes in our ears or whatever, tomorrow on the regular Bob and Sheri show, the People's Movie Critic is going to review Encounters on Netflix.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Hey, Heather, I give it 6 months before he's got a tinfoil hat on, just like us.
Can't wait.
Cannot wait. And I think
Those are
you're
good
going to make it
shows.
look good. I do. Y'all, thank you for being with us tonight. We so
Thank
appreciate
Thank
you. We'll see you, hopefully, whoever's listening on the regular Bob and Sheri show. And let me tell you what we have for Talking Lamar this week. I wrote it down because otherwise I would forget. For Talking Lamar, which drops tomorrow afternoon, Lamar is talking about the biggest pet peeves that airline travelers have. And True Weird Stuff, the title of the episode is Unmarked Graves.
Whoa.
Spooky season, everybody. We love you. Cheers. We'll see you next
Thank
week
y'all
for Happy
so
Hour.
much. Thank y'all for
Bye.
joining us. Bye.